Okay, guys, it's Mrs. Barrett here. For the next few weeks, we're going to do something called Where is Mrs. Barrett? As I'm reading the book. So, you guys look for clues and see if you can figure out where I am. Sometimes you'll be able to know specifically where I am, and sometimes maybe just more generally, like if I'm in a hotel or if I'm at a pool. We'll see. Anyway. Chapter 16. I fetched up a dress. She's going to the dance, remember? She was going to leave Jacob because Jacob didn't want to go. And so she's expecting her dad in just like 5 more days. He should be home. Or at least that's what he had said he was going to do. And she's going to go to a dance. And Jacob maybe is not so wanting to go. I fetched up a dress, made sure it was mostly clean, and for the first time in many a day, put it on. I even scrubbed my face and brushed my hair. I had to smile. I had forgotten what a pleasure it was to dress as a young lady. When Thad came down the hill to our tent, he looked at me with surprise. Or he looked at me and with surprise in his voice said, "You look real pretty." I truly believe I blushed. The dance was held at the El Dorado Hotel. I beg you to recall my Providence dance lessons and all the rules of conduct there. This San Francisco dance was altogether different. When Thad and I got there, the gambling tables had been pushed to one side. A fiddler and a banjo player were seated at the bar playing music, pausing only now and then to dive, like horses into their feeder bags, into buckets of drink. "What kind of music is that?" I asked Thad. "The polka, all the rage." It seemed wild. Great wide steps with much whirling about at a rapid rate. Many people were cavorting, but since there were not many women or girls in San Francisco, most of the men were dancing with men. Nor were these men dressed in fashion as in Providence, but in their regular miner's garb. I would like to say that at least they were clean. Not so. As for noise, the carrying on brought nothing but constant caterwauling, and no cats in sight. Caterwauling is, have you ever heard cats making that kind of sound? It's kind of like that. Rather continual hooting, hollering, and shouting. Sometimes screams of elation as well. As for drinking, bottles, jugs, and barrels constantly lifted and imbibed. Not tea either, but not by me or Thad. No sooner did I appear at the dance room's threshold than I was truly rushed. No dance cards here. It seemed as if 3/4 of the men asked me to dance. To my relief, Thad held them off, at least at first, while he commenced to teach me how to do that wild polka. As for the polka, it was a dance designed for Thad's long legs, sharp elbows, and knees. It was as if he came to a new life as a whirligig. As he spun me about, I became breathless, altogether hitty-giddy. Yet the look on Thad's face was, as always, perfectly calm. "Can't you ever smile some?" "Thought I was," he declared. I truly believe he didn't know how. While I danced at least 30 times with Thad, I also danced with 30 other men who, let it be said, treated me with great respect. All in all, nothing like Mrs. Coldbrett's Academy of Dancery. It was a riot set to music, though I could barely hear the tunes. I loved it. In my exuberance after the dance, as Thad and I walked back to my tent, we made plans that since he had the next day off, we'd go down bay in the morning and do some fishing and crabbing. Without much eagerness, I added, "I suppose I should ask Jacob." "Do you have to?" said Thad. "Think so," I returned. But I was annoyed. With Thad or Jacob, I cannot say. I cannot exactly say. When I got back to the tent, exhausted but happy, I stepped right behind my curtain, glad Jacob was asleep, so neither of us was obliged to talk. Once on my bed, I believe I re-danced every dance. How wonderful to rollick. In the morning, I got up early, reclaimed my miner's garb, bent over Jacob, and told him where Thad and I were heading. "Want to come?" "No," he said, rolling away from me. He was being, as usual, bad-tempered, making it clear he wished to have nothing to do with Thad. I, still full of my elation from the night before, thought, why should I let Jacob diminish my joy? I made one of my quick resolutions. I had done my duty, let him sleep. Shortly thereafter, Thad arrived at our tent. It being yet pretty dark, he had brought his oil-lit lantern. We went down to the cove. After selecting a boat which had oars, Thad and I headed down bay. I don't know how many miles we both rode, or how long it took, but we caught 4 salmon and fetched up a basket of crabs. With no rain or fog and a warm sun, it proved an altogether charming day. How blessed is blue sky. Let it be said, I was quite aware that I could never have spent such a time back east. A frothy dance, a morning float down a calm bay, fishing, crabbing, with a boy who was a friend. Next day, I'd work with Mr. Lyle, a carpenter, and make money, since he was constantly building houses. How fine it all was. I felt as if I were no longer the person I had been in Providence. I had achieved all the independence I could ever want. My spirits were so elated, I raised my arms high and called out, "I love San Francisco." "I said Thad, his main way of saying yes. All the same, I felt obliged to return to Jacob. "We should get back," I said. But no sooner did we start. What did I do? Rowing hurriedly, I snagged an oar on a rock so that it snapped in two. Thad jumped into the water and, being a good swimmer, retrieved the lost half, then climbed back into our boat, dripping wet. I used my knife, the one Father had given me, and tried to whittle a new blade from the stump of the remaining broken oar. "Let me do that," said Thad. Frustrated, I gave the knife over, and though it was sharp, his efforts were no better than mine. So it was that we had to work our way to town with but one full oar, paddling the boat like a canoe. At times, the tide and currents ran against us. Getting back to the cove seemed to take as long as sailing to California from back east. It must have been close to midnight then when Thad and I, holding our catch in our hands, trudged uphill to my tent. Thad's lantern had long expired. There was just enough moonlight to make our way. Thad set down the basket of crabs he'd been carrying. I flipped the tent flap open and poked my head into the deep darkness. "Jacob," I called. "Sorry I'm so late. Our oar broke. We had to paddle home. But look, we caught some fish and crabs." "Jacob?" There being no response, I looked closer. Jacob was not in his bed. Chapter 17. I backed out of the tent. Jacob's not here. You sure? Thad poked his head in, only to retreat. Nope, he said. Not here. Doubting myself, I looked a second time. Jacob was not there. Where do you think he went? Thad asked. Must have gotten tired of waiting for me and went to a friend. Though I said that, I knew my brother had few friends, and those he had were not people I knew. I did look up and down the hill, but as far as I could see, the dreary mud street paths were desolate. Nearby tents were dark. A tent farther off, lit from inside, glowed, but I didn't think Jacob, being shy, was likely to seek refuge with strangers. I felt uneasy. Thad said, "Want to find him?" Across the way, Senor Rosales' restaurant, where Jacob often was, stood closed down for the night. Since the cafe had no door, I crossed over and peeked inside. What? We gotta go? Okay, guys, I gotta go. We're gonna pick up right here in the next video. Did you guys figure out where I am? And why I might have to go somewhere? There's a big clue. Okay, I'll check in with you later. Bye.